welcome you all to Allyship 2.0. Thank you, Dr. Hota. Thank you, Dr. Nanda, for all the things. It's been a fantastic fireside chat, Prem, truly inspired. I can't say what you guys do for India. It makes me so proud and very humble. Thank you so much. Today we're going to be talking about allyship. And before I start the session, I'm going to start off with a bunch of questions to the audience. Okay? You do not have to answer it loud, but what I would want you to do is answer to yourself honestly. First question, how many of us believe that we are true allies here? That's an easy question. The second question might be a little difficult, which is how many people would say that you are their ally? Good. Very good. More questions to the audience. Have you ever been the newest person in the room and have thought, do I belong here? Have you ever had a great idea or knew that something was not right but have not spoken up? Yeah? Have you ever seen somebody being interrupted, overlooked, or underestimated and later wished, I wish I had spoken up? Yeah? Very good. If any of you had even a single yes to any of the questions, then you've already experienced what today's conversation is all about. Because allyship is not about them. It's about us. We often think of allyship only in the confines of gender, LGBTQI, race, ethnicity. But allyship is not just that. Allyship is when somebody has a voice and chooses to speak for someone who does not. It is about when somebody decides to be an upstander as against a bystander. And there is no conversation about anything today that we can have without a little bit of a discussion around AI and transformation and disruptions. And today, what we're going through is amongst the most disruptive times that you can possibly imagine. Artificial intelligence is changing the way we recruit. Algorithms are deciding on how we shortlist candidates. Technologies influencing promotions, learning recommendations, performance conversations. The team meetings today have become borderless, and we have 5 generations that's working together nowadays. And yet, the biggest competitive advantage that people have today is not technology, but it's trust. And that's something that we talked about. Because people don't innovate when they're afraid. People don't challenge ideas when they are not psychologically safe. People don't bring their best selves to work if they have to try really hard to fit in. And that is the reason why allyship is not about a D&I chapter anymore. It is a leadership competency. And all of us are aware of the fact that since most of us are from talent management and HR, we know that AI systems trained on historical data will produce historical biases. And one of the examples is, I don't know how many of us are aware of the recruitment tool that was created by Amazon, which had historically, and it was found out not to be very conducive for hiring women in STEM areas. Right? The lesson that we've learned is not that AI is biased. The lesson that we have to learn is that if we are biased, our systems are definitely going to be biased. And if we are inclusive, we have a better chance that we would have systems that are a little more uh, unbiased. And what we have to ask ourselves is, are we building intelligent systems, or are we building efficient versions of a deeply flawed today and yesterday? And with that, I'm going to start off with the panel discussion. How we're going to do is, I'm going to start off with a question for all of us, right? And I will start off with you, Suresh, and all of us will answer that. So what leadership behavior is that comes to your mind immediately the moment you hear the word allyship? And the second question is, if I were to go and talk to your team members and your colleagues, how will they describe your allyship, your natural behavior and not your work persona?
Okay, first off, good evening, everybody. I think it's lovely to be here, see some friends sitting here and some familiar faces. I'm so happy. I think we're talking about Allyship, not the AI, not at another AI conference, and I'm so glad that we're talking about, Allyship for me, is very important. We don't hear this often, right? Than we should be. And it's important. It's a wonderful leadership opportunity and a behavior that everybody need to be exhibiting. And for me, the moment allyship comes in, it is all about talking. It's not about talking allyship, it's about doing. Action for me is allyship. As well, I think as a leader, your behaviors, right? How are you going to really behave and how you're going to really support people, not when they're there at the face of it, but how are you going to really do it? How are you going to support them when they're not in the place? That's for me true allyship. And then possibly I would love my team to really say that, a lot of good things about me, for sure. I would like them to say that I listen to them. Before I could really bring things into action, I would like to have them say that I include everybody, and then I consider every ideas, and I possibly have them say that I make them quite safe, feel them quite safe. Like you said, the safety is what really matters. It's not about people challenging. People shouldn't be fearing to challenge the perspectives. Unless you have diverse perspectives, unless you have the courage to really bring in your own bold ideas. In the workplaces, we need more bold people. In the workplaces, we need more unique thinkers. And they will only evolve based on what kind of environment that we create. I think in sense of leadership and allyship, I think it's really important that everybody strive to create those environments. And the modern organizations, of course, I really represent the GCCs and the product organizations. I think it's imperative for us to really create those environments. And then that's what is going to really make us strive, and that's what we're going to really make us achieve what we're wanting to achieve. And then my team can really say a lot of good things, but at the end of the day, I do expect them to come and say, hey, Suresh, you didn't really listen 100% of it. And then that does happen, and then we can't keep on doing our best. And then, that's what we're wanting to improve every day in our leadership, as well as the allyship, because every leader and every person in the organization must share the responsibility of creating a very safe environment, is what my view is.
Thank you so much. Attentive listening, beautiful. Archana.
Hi. To me, now that we are talking a lot about AI, but maybe not this evening here, but it's everywhere about AI. As a leader, I would prefer, or we believe that adaptability along with technology, right? Today it's ChatGPT or the bot that you have something that's competitive, but it's gonna keep evolving. So we believe as leaders, we embrace the change, and as a leader, along with it, how can you engage your people, right? So such building lasts, or the relationship that you build lasts, when you know how to engage, when you know how to build and embrace and be agile. At the same time, the experience that matters, because I truly believe more than speaking, your listening works. And it's all about being inclusive, just not about the diversity as a DNI, but inclusive to all, everyone, and respect and see how you can contribute for them to succeed. End of the day, you want to have a footprint saying not what you said, but what you made them feel. So this is my takeaway on that.
This is a very thought-provoking question, the very first question. Why? Allyship could be rhetorically seen as, a synonym for camaraderie. But if you ask me personally, what's the behavior that, would you feel, that's personally I feel, or even the team would feel is, it's not just support. Support is something which happens very visible. When you're in a room with your team, they see that happening. But sponsorship is something which is very different. You talk about them when they're not there. That's very, very important. So sponsorship is little, elevated. I think that having their back at any point in time, I think is something which I hold personally as a behavior that I should continue to kind of sustain. But if you ask my team, that was a great question you asked, right, in the opening session, during the opening session. How many think that you're an ally? Because you could be an ally, you could think you're a wonderful ally, but not everybody thinks so. Your team should think that you're an ally, which means I do believe that my supervisor, my boss, speaks about me, advocates for me when I'm not there. I think my people believe that. And, but you know what? I don't know how consistent I am with that. But this is a very, very important question that I'm going to ask my people, that do you think I am consistent in this behavior? Because that's going to help me. Because allyship, just speaking, is not something to preach. It's something that we kind of, have in our veins. So I think, yeah, that's what. Having somebody's back when they're not there in the room and advocating for somebody, it's about encouraging the idea, not looking at the person.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Ram.
Good evening, one and all. Thank you for that question, Archana. If I have to bring ally in one word, the word which I believe in, the word which I practice, this is a style of leadership which I exhibit, is called participative leadership. More of you being consultative. Beyond daily work, beyond daily instant, irrespective of the levels, if you are participative, you will stay adopted and you will be stay successful throughout a successful career with a great leadership quality. When we say participative, you indirectly give them the kind of an emotional dignity. And also, you give them the kind of that barrier to break. And you take the liberty of pushing the boundaries. That is what I do. If you certainly ask my people, who am I, what sort of personality that Ram exists, I'm sure that they would say these three things. Yeah, of course, he's a participative leader. He ensures that the boundaries are pushed, burn midnight oil because they've given the emotional safety, and he ensures our paychecks are confirmed for this month end. Okay, so that's a kind of an outcome, you have to give in their presence, in their absence too. That is what the leadership is always means to me when you talk about the allyship.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much. Joshua, your thoughts?
Last but not the least, Vanakkam. I can see a lot of good friends around on a Friday evening. Some gratitude to start with. Thank you, Shiksha Vanasandan. I always say it is simply awesome. I don't say at SOA as Shiksha Vanasandan. I always say Professor Nanda and Raj knows that very well. To start with, thank you, Professor Nanda. December we met in Dubai, March we met in Bhubaneswar, today we are meeting in Chennai. Maybe the A word is missing, maybe next time let's meet in Austria or in Australia very soon. that would definitely would happen. Prem, thank you so much for coming today. Really blessed to have that 5 to 10 minutes of conversation with you. A great legend in the making, and you're doing a wonderful job. And simple, humbled to sit with this panelist. And Archana, you did a great job moderating. I know what a job in terms of moderating is considered because you have a lot of work to do other than the panelist. So you need to put the questions across and take that forward. So to quickly answer your both the questions, for me, allyship is more of compassion, understanding somebody's pain and put your shoes in terms of taking that together. And I also took the opportunity of quickly running through with my colleagues yesterday. If you think about your boss or your manager, what that one thing which comes to your mind? And all 4 people took that time and told respect, friendly, and easy to approach, one person. The second one was you are approachable and inspirational. The third one was empowering and supportive. And the last one was reliable and inspiring. So I just took the opportunity of taking that as well and reinstating in terms of what Joshua is all about. And is he an allyship in terms of his work and his career for the past 22 years is concerned. Archana, thanks for that beautiful question to start with.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And I think what you have talked about is actually the leadership, allyship mantra. Leadership, listening, adaptability, being a sponsor, having your back, participative and compassionate. I mean, these are some of the core things that you can possibly imagine of being an ally. Now coming back to you, Joshua, for the question that I have is you are a part of talent acquisition. Every organization speaks about talent, but talent flourishes only when people feel safe enough to contribute fully. In your experience, what is the single biggest barrier that prevents organizations from unlocking human potential fully?
When I saw the question, I was like, let me take that and tell Archana that I'm going to answer that before somebody else is going to grab it. Kind of most of the time, 80 to 90% of the time, I've been involved in campus hiring, which is hiring all freshers from campuses, and one is SOA year on year we do it. The first and the foremost thing today, I wouldn't say it is unfortunate, but most of the companies are looking at skilled freshers. Today we are not hiring freshers, we are hiring experienced freshers. So the experience paradox come into picture. So what happens is most of the time the organization look at the freshers as, hey, you've done that in the college, why is that it is not happening during the experiences in the office? Or why is that these things are not being able to handle once you are hired as a fresher in the organization? That is one. So what happens normally is they feel left out as a fresher, and the two things which today, while I talk to all the freshers, while I do my guest lectures is, today none of the freshers look out for help, neither they ask questions because of all these parameters which is kept in the organizations. They think they don't get the right mentorship or they don't get the right way or the runway to run their businesses once they join the organization. So what do we normally do and doing in the past few years is most of the organizations have started their internships during their 8th semester, predominantly on freshers. And let me talk about emphasis. We are running a program called Meta Geeks, where we hire people during their 7th semester. And all those people will come to 8th semester in the organization in emphasis. And that 90 to 120 days of their time they spend across, so that they are not the theory which they study in the college, but they put into the client experiences and to the client expectations when they join us. So these barriers are taken forward, and these things freshers feel they are kind enough to perform when they join the organization. Archana. So I think when you give them the ally of support, when you give them the ally of empathy, when you give them the ally of compassion, I think these barriers are taken off and they perform really good. And for the past couple of years, when these kind of activities, which I've started in the organization, I think they've been really productive going forward.
Brilliant. While your organization emphasis is kind of working to throw those barriers away. They are nevertheless very much existent. Ram, your thoughts?
See, I would like to put it in a very simple way. There are 4 words which drives the entire talent. Either it's a sports or IT or it's anything, it's manufacturing. One is IQ, the second is EQ, and third is work ethics, and the fourth is drive. And these 4 parameters varies if it's sports or if it's IT, if it's manufacturing, whatsoever the case. If the students are being prepared or the talents are being prepared on this arena, the fundamentals are going to be the same. It's an IQ or EQ or the drive or the work ethics. The fundamentals are going to be the same. But when the ages pass by, the application differs, the age differs. So here, that one barrier, if I have to say, the proportionation of this IQ, EQ, drive, and this work ethics, where if I have to say the elder generations have got it 80 out of 100, whereas the younger generations, the Gen Zs, they may have the IQ 90 out of 100, EQ 40 out of 100, whereas strong drive may not require 50 out of 100. Work ethics, it differs from person to person. But how we have to fundamentally coach them to have these parameters. IQ, you don't have to worry. There are things. In today's scenario, there is nobody called average student. While we studied in a college, there's a first class, second class, distinctions, and all that. Today, there is no below average. Because there is no poor student. Everyone is above 60. Because of the application, because of the fantastic professors and the teaching abilities. Okay, how someone is going to stabilize themselves in the emotional quotient. Recently, I have recruited from one of the topmost engineering college in Asia, which is in this city. Those people could solve problem at any faster space. But even a single chance of failure, they cannot adopt. They feel sulky and they cry, which I've seen it on the floor. Where is an emotional quotient? And the drive, do you really have the drive? And do you have that kind of work ethics? Is that some 3 factors which we have to fundamentally coach the students in the classroom, make them to get prepared? Are some of these barriers where the organization has to take it as a kind of an fundamental training aspects or a coaching aspects to make these people to feel strong? Is that what I see as a kind of a barrier? And if we can touch upon these aspects, I think in the organization will make a successful, a career-oriented person, not a job-oriented person.
Excellent. And thank you so much. I mean, organizations bridging that gap, respective, whatever they have. That's brilliant. Coming to you now, Archana. Innovation is something which requires, which demands dissent. Yet many of the employees are hesitant to challenge authority. How do we as leaders create a psychologically safe place where disagreement is viewed as commitment and not disrespect?
As leaders, we should be empowering and encouraging for opinions and suggestions on the table rather than rewarding an agreement. If someone challenges us with a respectful opinion, I think and I believe that should be considered as a commitment towards a business, not a disrespect towards the individual. I recently, while Joshua was talking about Emphasis having a program, Nordex, we introduced something called as EDGE, so Early Development Graduate Entry, right? It's the same concept of hiring or recruiting an individual or a university girl who is in 7th SEM. They get shortlisted, they come and they do it, right? And we go to Tier 2 cities, Tier 3 down south, not based on their GPA or the scores, but when we go there, we try to see, because we are OEM sector. When you talk about the wind turbine, when you talk about the blades, you will literally get to see the yard, you literally get to see the measure, how length and breadth and how huge they are. Down south, when I witness people, there are a lot of inhibition. they are hesitant to speak. But once you get into the shop floor, right, they are marvelous. They are awesome. They learn, they apply, and they feel. I think that's what we should nurture, right? Inhibitions, or talking about as leaders, when you have a different opinion, or when you have a strong suggestion against what's rewarding an agreement, I think that's where you build an inclusiveness. That's where you strengthen, support them towards success. And as a leader, we should be able to embrace what is coming ahead of us.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Next, segueing from there, Sukanya, it's for you. And Archana spoke about psychological safety. Now, psychological safety is only maybe one aspect of allyship. The second part is that a lot of times, how psychologically safe a person feels is a function of what your direct manager is like, or what your supervisor is like, right? So despite having strong policies, inclusion still depends upon who your immediate supervisor is. Does allyship truly begin with policy, culture, or everyday leadership behavior?
Okay. Archana, policy, culture, and leadership behavior. Okay. They may seem very interconnected, but in my opinion, they address 3 different layers. Because policy is something which is driven by organization. That's organization-wide. But, the behavior is personified. Behavior is basically, okay, fine, let me put this way. People mimic behaviors. They don't mimic policies, right? And if we talk about manager and immediate manager being inclusive, and there is policy, there's a wonderful culture in the organization, and we expect people to have or exhibit realistic, wonderful leadership behavior. All this is right. But when an organization thinks that I have a strong policy, so my managers are actually driving that, then possibly we are kind of little blindfolded. We may not really know if that's happening. Because manager or the managerial whatever stuff that we're talking about, that a person deals with his or her manager on a daily basis. That's on the daily activities. So policy can be laid down as a foundation. That could be a flow where you legally sit on it. Policy says that what should be done and what can't be done. But policy can't drive behaviors of somebody during some work meeting. But that's very, very important. We can't really say that I have a strong policy, so I have strong inclusion in my team. I would not really say, but that needs to be addressed very separately. How do we ensure managers actually have this allyship as their behaviors? I think we need to have that also as a performance criteria. Why? You got to look at the patterns of attrition. You got to look at the patterns of behavior of team members, and then make the team members responsible, accountable. Because if, as an organization, I think that my people are safe, they are emotionally safe because I have a strong policy. I may not really be, because people could think when I speak in a meeting, I need to take calculated risk. But if I calculate risk and then speak, saying possibly, these are the things I may have to speak, and these are the things that I may not really want to speak, and which means that my organization is not providing me that safe space to put my ideas directly. So policies are good, but that's the flow. Culture is the climate, but manager is the roof just on top of your head. that leaks, no culture, no weather, no pleasant weather, and no safe flow can help anybody. So I think managers and managerial behavior starts first.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Now coming to you, Suresh, and my question is, as a global HR leader, how do you see allyship? Is it something which is seen in organization as a nice people agenda or as a strategic capability? Is it a business imperative which actually has impact on resilience, innovation, and growth, or is it still viewed as a people agenda, people initiative?
For me, I think allyship is definitely is not just limited to people, while it impacts people. But I think when we talk about allyship really going forward and making its impact, and it's the business that need to really own it, drive it, and include it, so that everybody helps everybody succeed. I think that's really important. I think if at all we have to quantify allyship, so how are we going to quantify allyship? Is like, we should be able to really see, I'm sure a lot of HR guys sitting here, and what do we do? And one of my primary job is to make people successful. It's not about me getting successful, and that's not allyship for me. If I need to be an ally, and then we need to have more allyship culture, then everybody need to see success in others. And that's the culture that need to be adapted, and it is not going to be adapted when it is a people's agenda. When it is limited to people, it's never going to happen. It has to be going beyond. It has to be business, and the trust has to be within the business. And I'm sure we've got so many examples where we have really steered and we've been challenged, like, we have the COVID times, we have the tech adoption, now the AI, and so many things that we are really seeing the transformation. And when COVID, like the crisis had happened, we did not really look for trust. And then we already had the trust, and that has allowed us to really succeed in those times, and then succeed and be resilient, and then come back and then do what we are doing. So therefore, in crisis, you can never really build trust, right? Whatever as culture, that we build the trust, that keeps us going. So therefore, it is not going to be limited to people. It has to be the organization agenda for me.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Suresh. Now coming to you, Archana. So India's diversity is something which extends beyond gender. It is language, accent, socioeconomic backgrounds, age, caste, educational pedigree, and geography. All of these are a part of workplace experiences. Which invisible bias do we believe organizations continue to underestimate, and why?
A very classic go on that is about the language and the communication style, I guess. That's what we underestimate as a bias over here, because sometimes, or many a times, confidence is mistaken for a competence, right? And that happens a lot over here, probably. I could relate it to a very soft-spoken person, while the quieter voice is never unheard. And sometimes an individual is louder, but has got no depth in it, a paradox that we always see. I have a small individual who had come from, I forgot the college name, I don't know if it is down south, but it's very difficult for him to frame or construct a sentence and converse with his colleagues, but he's one of my top performers today. And I can quote many more examples in such notes. So I think if he's not able to, one is not able to communicate in one, then that means he knows more than one. That's an experience that we all need to try to adapt, and it's okay if you don't know, but you cannot be underestimated.
Well said. Thank you so much. Coming to you, Sukanya now. and we cannot have any conversations without talking about AI. As the AI is increasingly influencing recruitment, promotions, performance management, everything, how do we ensure that we are simply not automating yesterday's biases? And should every organization have the courage to audit its AI systems for fairness just as rigorously as we do the financial systems?
Right. I'm basically from a fintech company. I could understand it, much more. AI learns from historical data. It doesn't learn from fairness. You can't expect, AI to correct your narrowed data patterns. It just optimizes at scale. And the problem is, when you have biases already there and the data is narrowed, or it's a narrow pool, then we are getting into a much more bigger problem. Do we have to audit? No second thought, yes, absolutely. As a leader, I would definitely want to know, where is my AI learning from? What is the data, what's the history that it learns from? Because it's very, very important that when I take an AI tool and confidently trust that to give me right candidates during the first level screening or whatever, interviews, I may not really blindly believe. Why? Because there are people who also give feedback to the AI, saying that there are very vague words, right? Gravitas, not yet ready, all those needs to be questioned. I think if you have to have an AI-oriented system, yes, please do, but you will have to make it very clear that it learns from the right set of data. So please make the provision to ask questions to AI. If it says no to a candidate, we will have to ask why, because that's being an ally. Gravitas, not yet ready, is not the right word to actually reject a person. In that case, we may have to do it. Auditing financial statements, obviously, because money is more important, but talent is even more. Talent, once lost, can't be really gained back. Why? Because that person is not going to really look at you the same way, because that's an experience. We always tell our recruiters that, please think that your candidate is your client. He's going to make or rather do business with you tomorrow. Or possibly, he's going to have somebody in his family who will possibly do business with us, which means that you could possibly be an ambassador as well, and my dealing with you, if that goes wrong, that's a business point that I'm losing. Every candidate is a client, if we have that mindset. And actually, in Rocket, we have something by name ISMs. We have 16 ISMs. ISMs is the way of life, like, optimism and, stoicism. ISMs are way of life. And we actually, drive those behaviors within us. There are quite a few isms which I could relate when we talk about allyship, and in fact, with even this question. There is an ism by name "We Are They," and eat your own dog food. Please develop your own systems. Eat your dog food. Ask questions. Make sure the AI system is learning from the right set of questions and answers and the patterns. And when we're recruiting, it's not like resume matching. It has to be basically portfolio-based assessment. We always say that don't confront the idea. So don't confront the person, confront the idea, which means challenging the idea is important. You do not really have to look at the person to challenge an idea. So it's very, very easy. Yes, it's very, very important to audit the AI systems, with a regular cadence, I would say at least once in a quarter, and also learn to ask no. Why? Why to AI? Why did you say no to AI? And please have your respective leaders or the business owners tied to it.
Coming to you now, Joshua, representation may be decided in the boardroom, but belonging is something which is experienced in meeting rooms, cafeteria, work, WhatsApp groups, and business travel and informal conversations. How do leaders ensure allyship exists when nobody is watching or nobody is measuring it?
Okay, let me take this, maybe a couple of examples, and then I relate to the topic which you just questioned on. Maybe the first thing is, if some leader is part of a meeting, and if he calls out work done by a person who is not there in that said meeting, right? Give credit to that meeting. He lives by that example of giving importance to the person who is not there physically present. So every time we can't measure allyship, that is one. Second thing is, the room also follows the leader, and it becomes the behavior of that entire room and the entire group as such. Second thing is, I always talk about rewarding certain stories, not on the stacks, because during my Satyam days, Raghu is here, who worked with me as an intern at that point in time. We used to hire a lot of niche skills. Today we are talking about AI. At that point in time, there were a lot of niche skills which we used to hire. Out of 10 of us, hardly 1 or 2 join us. So I used to cross the old DMK office. It is still there in Tenambit, where I used to see a lot of bouquets and shawls, which is given to the political parties. I was just wondering, can't I give a bouquet or a handwritten note to all the offered people, addressing the parents, stating that thank you so much for giving your son or a daughter an opportunity to work for the organization which I work for. And that would definitely contribute to the growth of my organization. You would not believe, out of the 10 people I offered, there were 6, 7 people who joined me against the 1. So it is all about not the statistics or putting some PowerPoint presentations, but something, the story which we continues to talk about out of our own experiences. And the third one thing which I literally feel is calling out in terms of the performances of somebody. I'm again quoting a fresher, because my entire blood talks about freshers hiring, and freshers thing is all about, if he has done a client presentation and that has been represented and become a module lead in a shorter period, we are giving them the opportunity, and through that he grows as a person inside the organization. So again, I'm telling you, allyship or leadership cannot be measured at any point in time or all the time. It can be normalized, or it can make a system to it, or we can make a storytelling like the way I did today during any meetings or during any presentations and so on and so forth. So I think allyship is all about how do we represent in various forums, and you can't always measure it at any point in time.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Coming to you, Suresh. So allyship is not always an organizational responsibility. It is a series of personal choices that we make on a daily basis. And wanting to end in a more personal note, tell us about a time when being an ally has come at a personal or professional cost for you. And sometimes, where you've had to challenge a decision or question something, stand up for something. Give us a personality.
Yeah, sure. If we are being in HR for sure, and otherwise as well, if we are living in a world where everybody agrees to us, I think that's the ideal world. But unfortunately, that isn't the case, isn't it? You do have diverse perspectives, and then you do expect, the other people to think a little differently. And then when people think differently, and then obviously there's no common decision. And for me, I go through that multiple times, a day maybe, and there is no day, there is no disagreement. And that's how the world is, and that's how it should be as well. And yeah, we do want to really take those tough calls, and then sometimes, it is just not about this number of disagreements that we have, but I think if you're really being, looking at standing by somebody who's not so privileged, standing by somebody who's not having, not really good at that, obviously, we're in the recruitment and we all really look at it, and even in the HR, right? How many times we find people who does brilliant job, but then they fail to really say that they've done a brilliant job. And then for those people, we do need the allyship for them and for those people, and they do deserve it. And our leadership and the culture of the organization, do we believe in really speaking about them even when they're not there? The easiest is to really go to the face of the person and say, hey, listen, you did a good job, and that's very easy for us. But then are we going to really say it in a different time where the person is not there and saying, hey, this X has done a good job? And that's pure allyship for me. And then that's really culturally defining for any organization. And then if I am doing all of that, and then if I have to take risk of doing that, and then if I have to possibly really scout for somebody, speak for somebody, and then that can possibly come at a future risk of that person being or continue to be being amazing. But even if he doesn't, I'm okay to take that risk personally. And then that's what possibly I believe, that I've got to be the voice for the voiceless. You got to be the one that is creating a platform for people who doesn't have the platform. And that's precisely what we all do. And how many times we, in recruitment as well, this all, my journey starts even at the campus hiring, saying my team says, hey, listen, not very good. And then we often say, okay, fine, why not? And then you possibly feel that person is very good because everybody sees something beyond. And then we have varied perspectives. And then if I have to take that risk and say, hey, listen, I'm sure he will do very good if he gets trained, or if he comes into this atmosphere, if he comes on board with us, and then he will learn it. And then, that's the risk that I'm taking. And that's for me is the allyship that I'm exhibiting. And if that comes at a cost, then I'm okay to take the price of it. I'm personally, and obviously that comes from the safety that is given by my organization, my leaders. And every one of us in the room should be able to take those little risks and stand by people, stand for those moments, because not everybody is brilliant on a given day. Like Prem sir mentioned, there are days, there's something off that you cannot do, and then there are days that you can do brilliant. But then do you have the ability, do you have the real sense of being there with the person when they're not at their best? I think that's where the true allyship lies for me. You can be there with the people when they are brilliant, but then the real difference and the allyship and the leadership for me is that be there with the person when they are not in their perfect times and create the difference. And then for that, you can take any risk.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Suresh. Saving the best at the last for you, Ram. Perhaps the best way to close is not by retrospectively thinking about what we've discussed, but forward-looking about the next 5 years. So if you were sitting here 5 years from now, what is that one capability that future-ready leader must possess today that we are still not developing enough?
One of the most tricky questions. Okay. So, sorry? Okay. Okay. So, the thing is, from 5 years now, okay, if you have to ask me this, what is that, the future-ready leader should look like and should not? Okay, there is no perfect answer, but still I'll try to take up this. So, one thing is, to be alive, you have to learn, unlearn, relearn, including your yesterday's password. Okay, that level of agility is most important, because today when I was talking to Prem, Mr. Prem that who is our coach, because his pattern, his technique would have not changed, but his mentality is changed when he is coming across the different set of athletes the past 5 years and the coming year and the next 5 years. Because for them, the sports is important. For them, how is that attitude they're going to carry on the sports, we do not know now. Now, example, Gen Z. So for example, in current generation, okay, the people does not have to work for all the 3 levels, the base 3 levels of the Maslow hierarchical theory. Okay, They have their choice of their car, they have the choice of the house, they have the choice of whatnot. For them, the insecurity is something which is not there in the dictionary, unlike us. Okay, so what as a leader we have to understand, okay, what is that current generation is looking like, whom we are going to dwell with tomorrow. So are we unlearning, are we alive with the upcoming to the leaders? Second most important thing. Today we are talking about hierarchies, levels. Tomorrow that's not going to be the case. I was sharing one of my views with Archana. We have got that 7 sectoral AI certifications in our company across our globe. Joule, SAP Joule, AWS, and Microsoft Copilots, and Claude, Anthropic, and all this stuff. So when our people of our age asked to get certified, I'm not talking about the course, certified, everyone struggles, stumbles. We have gone the way of coding. You have to still know the bit of coding. I saw my CEO in Houston in my office next to my cabin is calling up one of the recently recruited trainee, taught some office ideas to make that coding and the test to get completed. Okay, that level of participation, that level of breaking the hierarchy should be there. Tomorrow there's not going to be the hierarchy. Tomorrow there's only the role going to persist. Everyone is become a kind of a gig worker today. Okay, for them the job is not important. For them the career is important. If not now, if you take IIT Madras, all the top brands of the companies are 15th list and above. You can't even remember the name, or you can't even hear the name of the companies in the 1 to 15. For them, the brands are not important, the emblems are not important. For them, the career, for them that, the place where they have that kind of aspiration respected and the emotions respected is most important. So as a leader, 5 years down the line, are you emotionally accommodating the coming up generation? Breaking the myth of levels and hierarchy. Are you giving the room for them to drive the talents? Learn it, more adaptive. You can't put them in 3 hours of session now. It's more of adaptive nature. Okay. So are we being, very dynamic? And the last but not the least, as a leader, the culture is kind of more diluted now. When we say culture and all that stuff, the culture varies from company to company. I originally work out of the western side of the world. Okay. I keep shunting between. So for my company's culture, we talk about the relationship, bold, fact, and all that, but that doesn't work there when we go now. Okay, a 5-year guy who has become a project manager, a 16-year guy still become a senior developer. Doesn't matter. Okay, there cannot be a kind of an, the levels or the hierarchy and the respect. The respect is there for every individual. Either he is a senior guy or a junior guy by age or the experience, it's all the same thing. So we as a leader 5 years down the line have to remove the suit of this kind of conventional thought process of levels, languages, and the race, and the knowledge, and the age, and the experience, and try to be kind of a level playing, zeroed in all the aspects, and see what is just an outcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. In my opinion, adding to Ram, adding to Ram, the world is absolutely uncertain now. We do not have answers for everything. We have data, but do we have inferences? I'm not really sure we do. Do we have right insights? I'm not really sure, because you can't even trust the data now. Now, with all this, 5 years or 10 years, whenever we are looking at a leader, I think a very important quality of a leader to be decisive during uncertainty. When there is no evidence, if a leader, despite having no evidence, is able to take a decision, support somebody, be an ally, and have that gut and trust, I think that's very important. Because I'm going through a transition, which means that we have been acquired by Rocket. Now, we were erstwhile Mr. Cooper Group, and now I could really see how the transformation and the integration happens. We do not really have answers for all those questions. despite those questions, despite these uncertainties and ambiguities, people who take decisions, maybe right, maybe wrong, all these are experiments. The leaders have to be good enough or okay enough or be comfortable enough to fail, get up, and learn.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Now we're going to do a quick round of fastening, lightning round. Quick one answer, one word answers, please. One myth about allyship that needs to disappear. Joshua.
Are we over talking about it or underperforming it?
Ram.
Are we started thinking about it?
Okay. Suganya, one leadership behavior that every manager should start practicing from Monday onwards.
Okay. That's a very tricky question. From Monday onwards, think that you haven't really understood your people well. Go and speak to them. Be a part of them. And then it's like inculcating that trust or behavior of trust or mindset that I have your back.
Perfect. Archana, complete the sentence. The future belongs to leaders who?
Has to travel with empathy, embrace, take the people along, not just the results.
Brilliant. Suresh, complete the sentence. The future belongs to the leader who?
Who wants to go far, will go together. Who wants to go fast, will go alone.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. As we come to the end of this discussion, I'd like to leave you, everybody, with one final thought. Leadership is not something which is in our visiting cards. It is always defined as something that how we show up for our people. Technology will come and go, AI will come and happen, but there's one thing that will never change, and that is how people want to be heard, people want to be respected, people want to be valued. And so I am going to leave you all with one question. When somebody tells your story 5 years from now, will they remember your authority or will they remember how you made them feel? Thank you, all the panelists, for the honest, wonderful sharing. Let's not leave allyship in this panel. Let's take it back, not only to the boardrooms, but also to our dining rooms, to our family WhatsApp groups, right? And because the future is not going to be something which is driven by people who are technologists. It's going to be driven by people who are very, very courageous. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, panelists.